Obviously, firstly, thank you to Titus for organising today's digital marketing meetup and to Epic Innovation for its generous sponsorship. Today I'll be introducing you to the technical side of organic search engine optimization. There's a reason why I'm sat with some speaker notes, because I've condensed a 5-hour session into a 15-minute talk, so please bear with me while I try and stay on topic. I have a very good ability of waffling. So anyway, right. Before I begin, let me just introduce myself if you haven't met me already. I know some of you haven't. I've worked in digital marketing since 2008, sorry, 16 years. And for the last 6, I specialised in SEO. So I estimated I've worked on roughly 120 websites so far in my career. For the last year, I've taught an SEO short course for NZIE. As you can see, me in the corner, that's me teaching. And I've helped dozens of business owners, in-house marketers and website developers understand how to audit their website and develop an effective strategy. So if you find today's topic interesting and would like to learn more about SEO, we are currently accepting students for our final term of 2024. So I'll provide a QR code at the end of this if you would like to sign up. All right, let's begin. Oops, sorry. If you are not familiar with SEO, I wasn't sure if you was turning up today. We've got quite a few more people familiar with SEO than I was maybe expecting. Obviously, the process involves improving your website's performance in the organic search results for relevant search queries. I like to remind my students particularly that there are 3 main components to this relationship. Firstly, you have your searcher and customer, who obviously is looking for something. So there's an intent behind what they're looking for, whether it's a product, service, information, or brand name. Secondly, you have the search engine that facilitates that search and tries to find the most relevant answer to a query and obviously presents it as a list of results and some other cool features. And then lastly, you have your website and the content within it. Now obviously, between search engine and your website, search engines like Google review your content and decide which queries your website is most relevant to. And obviously your customers engage with your website, reading through your content and hopefully engaging with your business. The best way to describe where technical, oh no, it's gone. Hold on a second. There we go. The best way to describe where technical SEO fits into this picture is the technology intersection. So where your website has to communicate and engage with the different technologies available. So obviously search engines are their own complicated suite of web crawlers, databases, algorithms, and large language models. And on the other side, you have your customers who may be accessing your website from one of tens of thousands of different devices. And the role of technical SEO is to obviously ensure that your website is the most compatible. You're never going to be entirely compatible, but to be the most compatible with both search engines and customer devices. So I tried to break down some of the key technical topics into either side, just I suppose for clarity. But in reality, there's a huge overlap between these. So as you can see on the left-hand side, really for search engines, we care about things like URLs, HTTP statuses, redirection, robots, internal linking, structured data, to name just a few. And obviously on the right-hand side, user experience, being mobile friendly, core web vitals, hopefully some of you are familiar with that term, page loading, security, engagement tracking, again, etc. These lists can be very, very long. The common denominator really for all of these is your website. And so that's where we're going to be starting today for this introduction. We're going to be focusing mostly on a website. So what is a website? Well, by definition, it's a collection of web pages and related content that share the same domain name. And for a lot of my students, that sounds great, but they don't really understand what that means. for a simple website to work, as I'm hoping some, if not most of you know, you require 5 things. And it's a combination of these things that makes every website unique and can impact a website's performance. So I'm going to be exploring each one of those things as part of this talk. Firstly, the easy part, the web pages and files. Essentially, the text, imagery, and all the other items wrapped in code and presented as a page. Most of you will be familiar with CMS or content management systems, which are the software platforms that provide you with the user interface for building your web pages. Currently, 62% of websites are built using WordPress, so that's a huge proportion. But just because 2 websites are using the same platform does not mean that they have been built the same way. In fact, one of the greatest challenges with technical SEO is not necessarily the CMS, but how your website developer chose to build with it. Developers do not necessarily take SEO into consideration when building a website. Or when building a new website, when building any website. Secondly, your web server. So this is where your content or content management system is hosted, which is identified by a unique IP address. Again, not all website hosting is equal. The location of the web server, how many sites you share the server with, and how the data is managed can all impact on your performance. Then we have the domain name server. Now the DNS has a primary role to convert your web IP address to and from your website domain. And I tell you now, it's not unusual for this information to be misconfigured. So many technical SEO problems have come from trying to investigate what the hell is going on behind the scenes. Your domain name. As you can see, just from this diagram, your domain has several moving parts that can also impact performance. For example, choosing to use a top-level domain for a specific country, such as .nz for New Zealand, may improve your performance in New Zealand, but may also reduce your performance elsewhere in the world. In addition to that, each web page has its own URL. How you structure your pages using subfolders and how you name your pages and files impacts how search engines and website visitors understand the content of your page, and where they are also within your website architecture. Lastly, the client, which is the application where you enter the domain name and where the web page is rendered. As website users, we're familiar with web browsers. Chrome is currently the most popular browser with 65% of the market share, while 18% of market uses Safari on a mobile device. It's important to understand that each browser renders content slightly differently, and in combination with the device the browser is installed on, your web page may look and behave unexpectedly. Search engine crawlers and website auditing tools are also a type of client, and the biggest difference really for us is how they present the rendered version of the web page. So we have 5 key components. How do they all work together? Firstly, picture us, we have our customer. They unlock their mobile device and they click on a browser app on their phone, in this example, Safari. In this instance, they know the URL of the page they want to visit, so they enter it into their browser. The browser then sends a request to the DNS server, which sends a request, or the DNS server, converts the domain to the IP address and directing it to the hosting server, and that sends a response back to the browser. If all is successful, the web page located the URL will open and load correctly within the browser. And obviously this process, and I think something that people don't really appreciate, is that this single process is used for every single URL that makes up your web page. So for each image, each style sheet, all your tracking codes, etc. will follow this individual process. The key thing here as well is that each of the components talk to each other by using HTTP. So they send HTTP requests and receive HTTP responses. So in for technical SEO, managing the status codes is a cornerstone. HTTP responses are assigned a 3-digit code starting with a 1, 2, 3, or a 5, and for a web page to load successfully in your browser, it needs a 200 response code. Unfortunately, the most common status code to manage is a 404, which means page is not found. The most common reason this status happens is because, number one, human error, such as there's a typo in the URL entered into the browser, or there's been some changes made to the website, such as changes to the page name or file name, the page was moved, or the page was completely deleted. These are all quite reasonable actions to take as managing a website. However, for an end user, experiencing a 404 is quite a negative experience and may put them off navigating your website. And search engines, they may see that your website is badly managed and poor quality if you have a high volume of 404s. So obviously, best practice, apply redirects as soon as possible and update any internal links if they contain broken or redirecting URLs. These are the actions the technical SEO does day to day. So next, the average page speed of first page Google result is 1.65 seconds, which is pretty darn fast. The process of those requests and responses that we've just shown between the browser and the web page directly impacts the time it takes to load a page. Another key area of technical SEO is optimizing this process. So it could be streamlining how the page has been built, improving the hosting, using caching to reduce the requests from the browser, or redesigning the website to be better for popular devices. The trouble is that the time it takes your page to load, keeping in mind the different internet connections and device capabilities, does directly correlate with user experience on your website. Poor user experience can lead to a high bounce rate and a low conversion rate from website visitors. This can obviously impact your return on investment, so not just for organic search, but also for paid advertising driving traffic to your site. Google itself recommends that your website loads in under 3 seconds, but obviously, as we can see, if you really want to get to the first position, aiming for 1 second is probably the way to go. So for the last part of this introduction to technical SEO, I'll explain a few key concepts that are important for search engines. The first is that we tend to break down the search engine process into 4 stages. So everyone should be familiar with ranking when the search engines present results in the organic search listings, obviously in order of relevance. Our previous slides on how a page loads can be categorized under rendering, so the most efficient page loading will perform the best. Not only this, but if a customer clicks through from an organic search result and has a good page experience, it can actually have a positive impact on future ranking. However, before we even get to ranking, there's a process that search engines must go through to discover new and updated web pages, and quality checks to decide whether the web page should even be included in the database. And in technical SEO, the crawling and indexing side of things is pretty high on our priority list. If you are completely new to the concept, web crawlers, such as Googlebot, are software that exists to systematically crawl the internet. That's their only job. When they find a web page, they read the code from top to bottom, and when they find a link, they follow the link to the file or web page and then repeat the process. It's best to think of this process a bit like a spider web, and the bots, also known as spiders, travel from web page to web page. So as you can imagine, how you link your web pages together is a really important part of technical SEO. This is also referred to as website architecture. And optimizing your website architecture can include things like improving your navigation, managing your sitemaps, and adding text links within your content. Lastly, it's possible to control how web crawlers behave on your website. This is through the use of robots, and robots are essentially instructions for bots. The 2 most common robots will engage with your content management systems are your robots file and your robots directive on each page. The robots file provides instructions for how to crawl your entire website by allowing or disallowing entire subfolders or blocking specific bots. For example, you will want your staging website to be disallowed while it's under development. So many are not. The meta robots also instruct your bot on how to behave on a specific page. For example, you probably want to no-index a thank you page that shows after completing a form. Ultimately, in technical SEO, we want to check your robots to make sure that they're giving the correct instructions to your web pages. So to summarize, today's presentation only scratched the surface of what is covered by technical SEO, and each website presents its own unique challenges. If you're concerned that your website is negatively impacted by one of the issues highlighted today, there are a few things that you can do. Firstly, download and sign up to an auditing tool. At least get Search Console and see what Google sees when it attempts to crawl your site. Secondly, speak with your developer who built your site. They'll know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. If things aren't going well with your developer, find an alternative who you trust and investigate to resolve the issue for you. And lastly, find a specialist who can help. We're fortunate to have some fantastic specialists and consultants here in Christchurch. And obviously, please reach out if you need a referral. Thank you for listening.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
For hostings, do you have any recommendations for New Zealand businesses and Australian businesses?
It depends on what type of site you're hosting. So if
Let's
it's
say
for instance,
service.
a WordPress site,
Yep.
someone like Kinsta has been probably one of the better ones. If you're hosted on SiteGround, move away. Move away straight away. Some of the best hosting has actually been independent hosting. So if your website developer also hosts and has a really good hosting provider based here in New Zealand, I would go with them. Otherwise, Kinsta has been so far the best for WordPress.
How do you spell that? Kingsta?
Kinsta. Kinsta.
Kinsta. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, where do you place content in technical SEO?
Oh.
Or do you not?
Curveball. For this particular demonstration, it content didn't really feature, but I suppose it's all the text that ends up on your page. So it's obviously how your page is presented, the amount of content that's in it, and everything else. That's where that would come in. Yeah, obviously things like your URL structure can be completely influenced by your content.
That was my next question.
Yeah. So as part of the course, we actually go through a whole section on how to optimize your website architecture.
So
by
personal preference subfolders or off the roof?
Subfolders, yeah, because I think one of the points I made earlier was your customer should be able to identify where they are on your website, and using subfolders is actually a really good way for them to understand where they are. So one of the exercises we do with our students is go, here's a random URL on this website, can you navigate your way from it and navigate your way back to it? So number one, can you find it just by using your URL structure, but also number two, can you use it using your menus? And that is a good sign that you can obviously find all your content is findable by both bots and humans.
One of the other technical things I was thinking about is if there's a piece of text, and I've had this before, where there was some links to casinos that were like justified, like completely right, and being able to find those. So like getting the inspect tool and actually looking at the code to see what is on that page, and being able to identify. And people are sneaky, so just being able to see those things.
You also mentioned that Google understands if you like when you open some pages from the search result, and so rearranges depending on that. How does it understand? Like if you spend some time closed it.
Well, obviously it doesn't give away the entire secret sauce behind how it tracks things. I wish it did. Number one, obviously it does track clicks. We know that now officially, that it does track clicking. We also know that it can understand if you return back to the search results to try and find another result. So if you go onto a result, it's irrelevant, and you bounce away and go back to the search results, that will obviously be seen as a negative result. Secondly, it does measure core web vitals. That's how the page loads and that page experience. And it does have specific ranking, direct ranking factors. If you have poor engagement once the page actually loads. In which case, if it is poor, not just page loading speed, but also for those other factors, it will have a negative impact in the big scheme of things. Yeah.
And you've got like 60% of the web using Chrome. Everyone uses Google Analytics. You know, everyone's got pixels from YouTube, Android phones. You know, they don't get everything that's going on. So.
Sneaky.
Well, clever.
Very clever.
And any specific techniques for this AI bot? So, for example, if I'll ask Gemini from Google, like what is the best flower shop in Christchurch, is there any way to optimize for that?
So that won't be a technical optimization, because obviously some people know AI a little bit more than I do. My understanding is that things like Gemini is still built off the Google search platform. It isn't its own platform. It's piggybacking off existing results. So all the way the search engine, the fundamentals of what makes it a search engine haven't changed. It's then just stuck this new user interface on top, which does chatting. So if someone is looking for the best X, Y, Z, what are the signals that actually indicate something is the best? Well, that would be number of reviews you have, the star rating, like the Christchurch magazine saying that your business is the best, having your business feature on top 10 lists, because it's going to read all that content. It's going to kind of, and then it's going to formulate an answer based off of what it finds on those pages. Gemini isn't churning out anything new, it's using existing content. And that's the same with even ChatGPT. It's not generating anything new, it's just understanding how words are put together and piggybacking off existing technology. So until the day that Google changes how it fundamentally works, I'm not too worried about those results. But you need to find ways of getting things like really high quality backlinks, high quality reputation, high quality reviews, in addition to managing your own website. You have to do more. More is more. See? Hi.
What would I guess be like maybe 2 or 3 of the most common technical SEO mistakes that you see people make when they're whether they're building a website or they're just trying to rank better? What would be some of the most common blunders, I guess?
Hannah, would you like to offer?
No, I'll take on to what you say.
Oh man. Number 1, having a website developer who says they can do SEO and doesn't do even the fundamentals, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay, so we'll get that one out of the way. Number 1, okay, so accidentally changing your domain name while launching a new website. So it could have been something as subtle as you were previously on a www subdomain and you moved to a non-www subdomain with your new website. It's a tiny error. It's almost, you don't think about it. And that's because someone changed, you know what that is? Someone changed the DNS settings. That's all it is a line. A fucking line item.
Yeah.
In your and that can completely destroy your visibility. Because
Google
Google,
website after that.
Yeah.
changing the content management system. So again, website migration where they go, oh, we're going to maintain all the content and the URLs, but they've moved to a content management system that actually automatically creates certain types of website architecture, such as Shopify. Shopify automatically has pages called pages and collections for, you can't change those things, they're quite fundamental. And so obviously the entire product catalogue, their URLs change. And Google has to then recrawl and re-index from the beginning. And Google can go, nah, we don't want to. Nah, we've got too much content on our index at the moment. We don't want any of this stuff at the moment. And that's what we're facing. So trying to get new pages, new URLs indexed can take 3, 4, 6 months later on down the line when they had perfectly good high ranking URLs in the first place. So yeah, trying to maintain URLs is the biggest thing.
The other thing is any new URL, it classifies it as a new page. So the rendering and the classification and where it sits in the search engine gets reevaluated from scratch again. So you lose all your existing history.
Oh, okay.
Ranking isn't transferred.
You don't follow like a trailing slash? Tiny things like that?
Yeah, trailing slash, yeah. So trailing slashes is one of the, I said I wasn't going to talk about canonicals today, but in my class, we talk about canonicals.
Yeah.
And I use the trailing slash as my best example because I go URL, what is a canonical? Okay, so I'll explain it. Each of your web pages, you need to tell it what the master URL is. This page is this URL. So regardless of if you have DNS problems or if you have trailing slash issues or you have some URL mistyped, if anyone lands on that page, or if you have UTM strings, obviously, tracking from paid search, etc., or parameters. If anyone lands on that URL in the browser, it understands what the page is because the web page says this is my master URL. And so what you end up with things like trailing slashes is that if you keep using if your trailing slash is your master version, but people keep using the non-trailing slash, you keep getting all these weird redirects and canonical issues. And Google thinks it's duplicate content. And so you have to, dealing with Google's understanding of what pages is a nightmare. See, this is why the class ends up being 5 hours, because I go on a ranting spree at my students. I talk to them through some, mistakes I've seen in the past. Yeah.
What can you tell us about accessibility and technical SEO?
I've not cut. That's its own entire thing.
All good.
Yeah. Obviously, that's everything like font size.
Optics.
Yeah. I'm not going there. Not for this. No, not right now.
I thought I might.
Next one.
It's an interesting question because who does that sit with? Does that sit with the SEO or is it a design problem?
Oh my gosh. I found it usually ends up sitting with the SEO department because the developer hasn't picked up on it. Even in websites built in the last year.
There's a lot of lawsuits in the States about sites that aren't accessible. That's like there's just people ambulance chasing websites to.
But with the wild west here in New Zealand, we don't even have rigid cookie policies or privacy policies. How many websites do you work with don't have privacy policies? So many, so many. We just don't take it seriously out here, hey?
No.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Yeah. Pretty much all of them have them, but they were put there when the website was created.
Stock standard. They don't mean much. Yeah.
I notice now that WordPress just creates one out of the box.
Shopify does as well. Just
WordPress.
Yeah. It's garbage, but it's there.
I'd say that is a bit nicer than some of the plugins that you can install to get that done.
Yeah.
They're all the cookie policy plugins are heavy things. They're not very nice or user friendly.
How is that page load time measured? Is it the full page, everything on the page, parts on the page? Like you've got images loading, whatever.
Yeah, so Core Web Vitals only cares about what's rendered in your first screen. That's what that cares about. But generally speaking, page speed can be about the whole thing loading. So that's why things like lazy loading are recommended as best practice for everything below the first screen. But then I've seen some things that say that lazy loading is quite bad. So it really depends on how your site's been built. Do you have any experience with any other thoughts?
No, not really. I've done a bit of lazy loading, but I haven't really seen it make that much difference, to be honest.
Yeah.
Depends what it is, because they've changed recently the main metric that they measure, and I can't remember what it is, and I don't think it's time to first bite. CLS maybe?
I want to say
CLS.
I want to say INP, but that might be wrong. I did a class.
You can so if you type in like page speed insights and then put the URL in, it'll give you like a little wheel with all of the different metrics, and then give you a rundown whether the core web vitals pass or fail. Most of them fail in one form or another, and then it can go through and give you like a bit of a breakdown on where you need to look. Like, is it picture size? Is it
Is it JavaScript?
Is it JavaScript? You know, not minified or so
Big
it'll give you,
images.
yeah.
We walk about
So it'll so page speed insights.
it's pretty cool.
There's GT metrics I think is another one, but
Is Lighthouse still around?
Yep.
Lighthouse.
It's in your browser.
not separate. It's not a
It's in your console now.
It's in the
Yeah.
console.
It's been fine there.
Someone give me a URL that's easy to type.
Yahoo.
Deanwork.nz. Deanwork.nz.
Shameless plug.
Better be good,
Thanks for your service.
What are you? www dot? Oh, I ever spelt it wrong.
That's alright.
It's an
You-
indexation point.
Yeah, you didn't spell it wrong, but that's alright. Just do yahoo.com.
This is pretty fast, hey?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised they passed. So many images.
On mobile too.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So the one on the right, Dean, is that the one you're talking about? The CLS cumulative layout shift?
No, I was wrong. That's how much like things move
Yeah.
on loading.
The new one is
Talking about
interactive.
FCP.
Interactive to next pane.
Interactive to next page.
And that's about how long it takes to load things like buttons. So if you're clicking on a button because you want to purchase something, but the code behind it hasn't loaded, so you've got the visual aspect, but you don't have the back end. And so you're clicking on a button, the button doesn't work. That was the example I give. Well, it's not doing a great deal otherwise.
Try desktop, might have already loaded. No?
Nope, might be the
Take a wee
internet
bit
connection.
there.
Oh, there we go. And then obviously you can get more detailed breakdown of how long it takes for your page to load. So in this instance, it takes 4.8 seconds.
Yeah.
And then provides all the different issues that's causing it to load so slowly. Yeah.
Is it worse on desktop than mobile? That's surprising.
Did mobile load?
No, what was that on mobile?
I don't think mobile loaded.
Hmm? Oh,
Wow.
look at that.
Yeah. 40.
Hey.
40.
Whoa. She heavy.
What's the top one? I can't see it.
Minimize main thread work.
Have you seen any websites with 100 in this page speed insights?
Yeah, I have. Very rare.
They're like a one-page
What is the good result after some SEO experts kind of fixed it? So 80% is good enough? Or?
Look, I would say it's best to find out how your website competitors are performing and then aim to be faster than them.
Better than
If you go, yeah, just go with that. That's the easiest one to go for, because the reality of getting some of these may be changing the platform you've built your website on. It might be completely restructuring how things are, and then obviously there's a time and cost factor with those things. So it might not always be attainable if you don't want to spend lots of money making the changes that need to be made.
Yeah, sometimes it's just the platforms. You're never going to get anywhere near 100.
It's 80-20 rule. Okay. You know, you'll get, if you get 80, you're doing right.
You're doing really well.
The
Yeah.
final 20 is tricky on most platforms.
Yeah. The other thing to consider with page speed is that it's not hosted here in New Zealand, so that's a US-based server. It's good for you to try and run the same tests on at least an Australian-based server if you can't do one from New Zealand, and that'll give you a much closer time of how far that data has to travel.
And you can see the devices as well,
Yeah.
which is good to know as well. So, likely the newer Samsung will, whatever, you can probably see it there, it'll be like a Motorola G35 or something, like super mid-range of the, what is it?
Right, slow 4 is a Moto G Power
G-Power, there we go.
with a slow 4G throttling.
Yeah, it's, noted.
A normal 4 to 5 pages of website, approximately like how much disk space does it take in the VPS or in the server? Like, do you guys have any idea on that?
No, afraid not. Anyone else?
Not a huge amount.
Because I brought a VPS from hosting here, and I only have 3 websites. One is e-commerce, but I just made it as a prototype, and there's another just of 4 pages. It's a marketing agency website, and there is one real estate. But the thing is that that's an agent, and every time click the link direct to their actually real estate website. So, and my disk space is 200 GB and it's all full. And I talked to the web developer. The problem is in Pakistan, and right now all the website is down, and it says the disk space is full. It's 200 GB disk space, and it's only that 3 websites. I couldn't find it. I talked to Hostinger as well, and they say it's not from my end, and my web developer says it's Hostinger or something security issue. It's just I'm not sure.
Have you checked the actual file in the actual database, well, the hard drive? Because if you could have there's a lot of injection packs that will just chuck a lot of pages on that. Because that's, you said 200 gig, yeah?
So
200
200
gig.
gig.
Yeah.
Because I really don't.
So how many products on your e-com site?
Probably 12 products.
12. Yeah, there's something going on.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah. There's probably something. It's probably a leftover file, or you could have uploaded another, like a zip file or something like that with massive images, or someone's got on there and injected something into your hard drive.
Someone hopped on the website. Yeah.
Okay.
So go into, have you got CPAP?
No, everything controlled by the web developer.
Okay.
That's good.
Move your site.
I will move hosting.
Change your host.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks very much.